Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, the 10th July 2017. The first article, Power Games at the Tri-Junction. It is related to the Doklam Plateau. Now, the standoff, whatever is going on between India and China, is very much different when compared to previous incidents. The reason is its military significance. The Doklam Plateau provides access to Chumbi Valley, and then it gives access to Siliguri corridor, the chicken neck corridor that connects India with northeast. And second is, the Bhutan also has a role to play. The Doklam Plateau was actually an issue between Bhutan and China. Now Bhutan and China also are about to come to an agreement on swapping of territories. Because of the India's interest, Bhutan has backed off. So, the Bhutan and China have come to an agreement to maintain status quoism, which was violated by China. So, it also reflects another dimension of India-China relations, that is to gain confidence and trust of the smaller countries around them. So, China is spreading the investments in Nepal, Bangladesh, etc. But Bhutan is a trusted ally of India. The third is, this has come up when the trust between the two countries is at its lowest. Now, if you take, India accuses China of blocking its entry into NSG and not designating Mr. Masood Azad as the international terrorist. This China-Pakistan economic corridor impinging onto the sovereignty issues of India. These are all the complaints from Indian side. On the other hand, the China complains that India is trying to develop an axis against the China. So in this context, the trust is at the lowest nadir and it has developed during this point. On the other hand, if you see the relative strengths of these countries, the border infrastructure is still very nascent stages for India. And second is, China want India to recognize that it is more powerful. And India has never taken it deterrence or difference seriously. So, China wants India to acknowledge its changed position in the global affairs. India never considered that. In this case, recently the Malabar exercises which India did along with US and Japan, this naval exercise shows the India's defiance. So, in this context, what the author says is, this standoff suggests or makes India much emboldened. So, in the power disparity which was existing, India believes as a myth and it is expected to continue. That is what this article is stressing on. Building solidarity beyond borders. Now, let me put it one point here. Prime Minister Modi made a visit to Israel. He made a visit to Sri Lanka. And in this, there are certain significant points. So everywhere, the right-wing politics, they have received with very much of enthusiasm. So in this case, the right-wing activities in Sri Lanka, especially by Sinhala population, and then in Myanmar by the Buddhist population, these all are getting themselves connected with RSS. So the article is trying to say that the right-wing politics and majoritarianism is getting consolidated across the Asian continent, especially in the South Asia. So in this context, the left liberals also has to raise the voice about this nationalist and also the right-wing politics. That's what has been the centrality of this article. But we don't need to much focus on this as per the exam is concerned. A dangerous turn. So, if you remember, the Naxalbari movement, it's a class conflict originated in West Bengal. So, West Bengal politics around the class conflict. The political violence is also around this class conflict. The communal factors did not much take the shape or took the violent shape in the Bengal. Even after the Babri Masjid demolition, the peaceful state was Bengal. So the communal violence did not spread deep into the Bengal province. But today if you see the violence at the 24 Paraganas, it shows that the communal polarization also entered into this intellectual state. Here, One is minority appeasement of the chief minister is also making a ground for majority consolidation by the BJP. So, the minority appeasement is, or minority communalism is polarizing the people and leading to or providing a ground for majoritarian communalism. The society ultimately is getting fragmented. That's what this article talks about. This divided island, it is about Cyprus. In Cyprus, you have north, south. The north is under the Turkey's control and south is supported by the Greece. Now, in 1974, the Cyprus was divided into north and south. When Greece supported coup is about to hatch, Turkey sent its armies. Finally, it has led to the division of this. And even the Turkey president, when he visited India, he requested the Prime Minister Modi to support for the unification of Cyprus. But the Turkey's president, Mr. Erdogan, he wanted to have this strong politics in the unification. So there are many hurdles towards this unification. One is the Greek Cypriots who fled from north to south wants to have their for the property rights. The Greek Cypriots are relatively well off. And second, there is a military presence of Turkey in the north, and Erdogan is not interested to move away from that. He wants to have a military presence in the island. And finally, the institutional mechanism to solve the problems of the people is not well placed. So finally, what we can say is, if Cyprus gets united, it can enter into the European Union as a one single country. And also the investment flows, trade, oil exploration, economic activity can get bloomed in this country. That's what the article talks about. Let's go to the open-ed page. Corruption in the era of liberalization. So there is a book written by Mr. N. Ram. This is Why Scams Are Here to Stay, Understanding Political Corruption in India. You can quote this book in your essay. So in this book, what he talks about is this. The liberalization phase has increased the levels of corruption. So in this context, in 1968, there is a famous book by Gunnar Myrdal, which I generally use in my class in the corruption topic, that is Asian Drama. So in this book, Asian Drama, he has explained about South Asian countries and their soft state phenomenon. So what is this? Their Indian and other South Asian states, they are not in a position to safeguard their own law. It means they are not able to enforce their own law, and he called it as a soft state phenomenon. So that is Gunnar Myrdal's book, Asian Drama. And second is, in this book he also explained the reasons for corruption, and most of these are from the structural dimension. It means the stage of development and institutional lack of the institutional capacities. These are the various factors he tried to explain as reasons for corruption. And Mr. Enram calls it as this book as status quoist, or he did not consider much of the dynamic factors according to Enram. Now the situation has much changed compared to 1968. What happened today is, in the LPG era, the size of the corruption, the average size of the scam has increased. So before that, the scam was around 60-70 crores. Bofors is around 60 crores. Now the scam is of the size of lakhs of crores. So in the LPG era, it was thought that the corruption will come down, because previously the corruption was explained through the license Raj. Even after the license Raj has ended, corruption did not end. So in neoliberal era, in market economy, the greater space enjoyed by the private sector and differential access to various business people to the government offices, it has led to the growth of crony capitalism. Today, if you have to explain the corruption, the business politics unholy nexus, excessive access to the private sector to the public space, all these have led to the greater corruption. That's what Mr. Enram is talking about. Is artificial intelligence fueling the natural stupidity? Now, there is a closed loop circularity that is happening in the social media. It means you post something. The people who like that post, they will give the like button, so that a kind of a relationship is established. So ideologically polarized people are being created because of the social media. So that's why it says the present artificial intelligence, machine learning, everything is forcing the natural stupidity. Next is regulatory overreach. It is about European Commission imposing a penalty of $2.7 billion on Google. And this article clearly states that it is an example of regulatory overreach. So remember this word regulatory overreach and add it as a point to your regulatory bodies. Next is the front of the first page. G20 hails India's labour reform startup policy. Now, India is considered as a growth engine of the world. So the structural deficiency India has to overcome. So the labour reforms are an effort towards overcoming these structural deficits. And on the other hand, the India has the youngest population. So the startup ecosystem, if it is well nurtured, then it can add to the economic growth of the country. So at the G20 meeting, this was applauded. Especially the labour reforms, tax reforms, startup policies, all these are expected to boost the innovation in the country. The political storm jolts Nagaland ministry. So instead of going into the political storm, the chief minister, he has resigned on the ground that the urban local bodies, there has to be a reservation, 1/3 seats have to be reserved for women. So Nagaland is a patriarchal society. Naga is a patriarchal society and they have opposed to this. So that's why it has been stated the political storm has actually flew from the reservations for women. And what the Nagaland argued is this: the constitutional amendments or any laws of the parliament will not apply to Nagaland if they are affecting the culture of the Nagaland. So, the not providing reservations to women, it shall be considered as part of the Nagaland's culture. So, the parliamentary law shall not come into force in Nagaland. That was their argument. Remember this from the perspective of gender equity in India. Now, let's get into the world page. Now, Mosul, which was the ISIS hub, it got liberated. So, the Prime Minister of Iraq, Mr. Haider al-Abadi, he has to be praised for a collective action. So previous articles, if you see, the coordination between Iraq forces, Iran forces, and then America's air cover, and you also have Kurds militia. All these have worked in coordination with each other to defeat ISIS. The article stated that it can be in classical model to fight the ISIS in Syria too. The Trump says time to move forward with Moscow. So USA and Moscow has critical differences on Ukraine and also on Syria. Now, Obama era, if you see, he was able to keep Europe under his fold in good relationship by showing the Moscow as the common enemy. Now, the Trump moving close to Moscow, how the European Union is going to take it is a bigger question which we need to see over here. Let's get into China seen as more innovation in IT than India. Now, a generation generally spreads over 20 years. India was able to catch up the IT industry in the earlier generation. But today, if you observe, the China has lost a generation, but China was able to pick up. Alibaba, it was one of the top 10 companies. And first top 5 companies are in the United States of America. From India, no such company exists. And most of the business models which are coming up in India are the copycats of Amazon or Uber or some other company in the United States of America. So this innovation ecosystem which is futuristic and which is generational, which can create generational impact, has to be developed in India. And then in the last page, I have given the notes, and these notes will be posted at laix.in/civilsprep. Thank you very much and all the best.